All right, we continue to wait for the proceedings of the Bomas of Kenya to begin. We've just seen another motorcade arriving, and Rashid, we've been here for 5 hours, so this is our 5th hour as we wait for the announcement of the 5th president. For how long shall we have to wait?
Sidhani kama tutasubiri sana kama kwa wanapozungumza wachanganuzi Sam Gitu kwamba kama ashafika sasa hivi na ni saa 10, basi inamaanisha muda wote kuanzia sasa IEBC itaweza kutekeleza majukumu yake kisheria na taifa liweze kujua ni yupi ambaye amepata kura nyingi zaidi. Kile kitu ambacho singependa nikizungumze sana ni kwamba situmie neno na kwamba kuna mmoja atashindwa, mmoja atabwagwa. Ni maneno ambayo yanatia chuki sana kwa wafuasi. Kwa tuseme tu mmoja amepata kura nyingi, alafu watatu wakapata kura chache, basi mwenye kura nyingi ndiye ambaye anastahili kupewa cheti na kuwa kiongozi. Kwa sababu sasa hivi hata ile sherehe ilikuwa inaendelea maeneo tofauti tofauti, baada ya viongozi wote wamefika kidogo imetulia. Kumaanisha kwamba sasa hivi hamna sherehe itaendelea baada ya mwenyekiti kutangaza yule ambaye ameweza kupata idadi ya kura nyingi. Nafikiri ni siku ngumu sana kwa wale wagombea urais kushinda wale wafuasi wanaosubiri kujua nani atakuwa rais wa 5.
And the most interesting bit is that as we await at the arrival of former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, we've seen a motorcade, we're waiting to confirm if indeed that is him. Then it would be a rare occurrence because, Steve, in 2017, we didn't see all the presidential candidates at the Bomas of Kenya. In fact, the most significant candidate was the winner, that is Uhuru Kenyatta at that time. And I'm talking about the August 8th general election. Should Raila Odinga make his way there, then this would be a historic moment where you find all the presidential candidates at the auditorium waiting for the announcement, which up to this point in time, it appears that it's only Wafula Chebukati's secret.
Well, I think the Constitution itself anticipates some minimum or residual level of political maturity and decency. And in a perfect constitutional and political setting, you would be expecting all the candidates that contested in that election to show up for the final announcement. So the failure by the Honorable former Prime Minister Raila Odinga to show up in 2017 can only be explained in terms of political bad manners. He needed to have shown up, show appreciation, and tell the IEBC, we have received the results, but we disagree. You're going to progress to the court. That is the kind of maturity that promotes peace and tranquility in the country. So we expect that if that indeed is his motorcade, that would be commendable. We would have expected him to show up, and if he has indeed arrived, then we thank him and we commend that action. We also expected the other candidate, David Moure, to also show up, just in solidarity, because he participated in the election to the end. Yeah, he's already there, yeah?
Yes.
That's fine. That is the kind of solidarity we need in our political leadership. It also helps to manage the tension, because if a leading presidential contender fails to show up to receive the results, it demoralizes his support base. And in a country that is deeply divided along ethnic lines, you can see, even without intending, the action of absconding or staying away from the formal declaration of results, that ceremony, can trigger unrest. Because supporters tend to sympathize. Kriegler said, if you look at the IREC report, the independent review report that analyzed the management of election in 2007, they said Kenyans have a peculiar habit. They are heavily invested in the elections that it makes it impossible to transition post the election.
And Rashid, on your screen, you'll find the arrival of the Deputy President's mother arriving at the Bomas of Kenya alongside other family members, of course, arriving here to witness the announcement from the IEBC, of which we still do not know the details, that Wafula Chebukati will be declaring to the country. Of course, ours is to wait for that announcement, just like even those friends and family of the candidates will also be waiting for.
Lakini pengine kuna swali mtu angependa labda pengine niulize. Kuna uwezekano kwamba hadi kufikia sasa walio pale hawajui nani ambaye ameweza kupata kura nyingi? kufikia sasa, ikiwa sasa tushafika saa 10 na kuna uwezekano kwamba labda pengine wale viongozi wa karibu na viongozi wao, nauliza nyote Steve, Javas, na kuna uwezekano kwamba watu wana mwelekeo kwamba inaelekea ama bado kufikia sasa sio wote wanaojua sasa nini kinachoendelea?
You see, Rashid, what I think reasonably so is that it is unimaginable that the leading presidential candidates or the presidential candidates would get invitation, especially in the case of the possible winner, without being told or hinted that he has got the chances, because in this case you have got only the 4 male presidential candidates. Secondly, elections such as this are a national security issue. It is unimaginable, improbable, that, for instance, the head of the military would be unaware of who has won this election. It would be unimaginable that the head of intelligence would be unaware of this who is the winner. It is improbable as well that the head of the team amongst the elite squad in the military that protects or provides security to the president is unaware of who has won this election. So looking at it from that, or from those kinds of lenses, it is possible that the person seated within Bomas right now, there are those who know who is the ultimate winner, possibly in this election, but it is just important that they embrace good manners and have civility throw its arms around them and wait for Chebukati, according by law, or to the law of the country, to make the official announcement.
Naam, katika picha yako naangalia ni mama ambaye alimzaa William Ruto tarehe 21 Disemba mwaka 1966 kule Sambuti kijijini Kamagut katika kaunti ya Uasin Gishu. Anajulikana kama Sarah Cheruiyot. Ndio huyo ambaye amefika akisaidiwa kutembea mpaka amefika tafutiwa mahali yake, sehemu yake ya kukaa. Kwa ni kwamba amekuja pia vile vile kusubiri na kuona kama mwanawe huenda akawa amepata nafasi ya kuwa rais wa 5 wa jamhuri hii ya Kenya. Nafikiri ni mojawapo ya hatua nzuri. Javas, unajua unatabasamu, lakini kama mzazi yoyote yule katika siku kama leo ungetamani kwamba labda ile ndoto ambayo mwanangu anapigania, kwa wazazi ni furaha, kwa watoto pia ni furaha kwa wazazi wao, na pia vile vile kwa mke ambaye watu wameoa pia wanatamani kwamba mume wangu alichopigania akipate. Kwa hiyo siku muhimu sana kwa familia, ndugu, jamaa na marafiki.
Kweli kabisa. Wacha niangalie kupitia kioo cha nyuma. Pale ambapo hawa wagombea viti vya urais walikuwa wanawateua wagombea wenza. Je, asubuhi hiyo wagombea wenza hawa hawakujua? Walijua. Ndiposa wengine wao walikuja na familia zao kadhalika. Sidhani kama nikiangalia jinsi desturi ilivyo hapa Kenya, kuna mtu ambaye anaweza chukua jamaa na jamii nzima yake aende katika kikao, akitoka hapo atokwe na machozi. Sidhani kama mtu anaweza kuwa na furaha kama hiyo. Lakini wacha tusubiri tuone, kwa sababu kila mtu hapa amekuja na jamaa zake. Hatujaona ule ujumbe ambao umeandamana na wengine,
manake hajafika Raila Amolo Odinga. Kwa pia tukiuona pia tutaangalia naye, kwa sababu tumeona tu magari ghafla yashafika katika mpango. Pia hatujamuona yeye mwenyewe kwa picha za moja kwa moja katika runinga. Kwa tusubiri, tukiuona tutakuja kujua kwamba je, ameandamana na nani na nani, alafu baadaye hizo hesabu taziweka mezani. Kweli.
Very interesting. And I don't know if any of you was able to observe the events of 2013 as soon as the president-elect was declared by Isaac Hassan, at that time the chair of IEBC. And maybe you could refresh our memories, if any of you remembers the change of guard, sort of activities and ceremonies that followed that announcement up until the president-elect that time left the auditorium, in what could be what you might see this evening, if at all there's a winner to be declared.
Amazingly, because now it's almost 10 years.
Yes.
My memory doesn't serve me very right, but I think I was in these studios. But as expected, the person who's been declared president-elect, they normally, fall back to their official, would say, communication centers, and meet, congregate with their supporters. And then we also know that officially there is the Assumption to the Office of the President Committee, whose functions now kick in. So the protocols around the security detailing and other arrangements begin thereof. But in terms of the president-elect, those people around him, close supporters and supporters around the country, we know it's a jubilation.
Right.
Kenyans will pour out onto the streets and markets and villages and start, and there are also speeches that are expected from all the candidates, whether, indicating the direction they'll take. The president-elect obviously will present, and if I recall 2013, a speech of magnanimity, promising to get to Kenyans together, to work together. Obviously, at that time, there was indication from the other side that they would go to the Supreme Court. They're not satisfied with the elections results, and that had been earlier, indicated. So it was sort of, at least, the difference between then and this year is that, as we've seen since Kenyans finished voting, and today we haven't had so much from the candidates.
Okay. What I'm looking for is the specific changes that you witness, because I remember in 2013 how Uhuru Kenyatta got into the auditorium is not the same way he left that auditorium. He was, of course, surrounded by security men. I don't know that they're women, and also different motorcade. He didn't ride in the same vehicle that he came in. Steve?
Yeah, of course, if you look at the provisions of Article 138, Sub-Article 10, that requires IEBC to declare the results, and then you read it together with the provisions of Article 140 in terms of the timelines for swearing in. Of course, if the president-elect when the president-elect has been declared, his status then changes, yeah? He becomes, for all practical purposes, he becomes the president. Only for purposes of transition, he has to be sworn in, and therefore the outgoing president remains the president until the handover of power officially has been completed, in this case, perhaps on 30th of August, if there is no petition. Now, that means that, of course, post the announcement, you can expect enhanced security, change of protocol, and he'll be treated as the president. You can expect communication, and I think Bobby has put it correctly, communication will now follow formal channels.
Right.
Of course, as he walks out, he may want to give us a short speech, it is a Thanksgiving speech, but you can expect the protocol to change immediately post-announcement, and you can expect the outgoing president to gradually, minimize his contact with the public to allow the assumption of office, the committee on the assumption of office, to issue the official communication. I think by law, right now, the president, His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, has probably completed the transition and is only in State House for purposes of handing over power. Should there be an emergency, then he would continue. If there's no exceptional emergency, he will be holding forth only for a limited period to facilitate the transfer. So yes, in short, we will have two presidents actively, one in office, one waiting to come in, but enjoying the same perks. That's what it is.
And of course, the president-elect will have an office of the president-elect can actually issue formal communication. Javas, you wanted to add something?
Well, yeah, that's very true. And then again, since the time when Kenyans went into election on August 9th, and new officials, new politicians, new leaders voted into office, we know that now the issue of incumbency that's temporary arises, becomes active. For example, right now, you know that we do not have a sitting parliament. all right? We do not have speakers of both houses, the Senate and the National Assembly. There are some things now that, factually speaking, the executive can do to the limitation of the law, and also anticipating that the arm of government, that is the legislature, will, according to program or schedule of law, get to be sworn into office. Now, these transitions that we witness, for example, the one we are witnessing through this election, puts to the fore one thing, that we are an organized and progressive democracy, something that other countries envy. So we as Kenyans actually should celebrate the fact that we can have such kind of peaceful transitions, and we are trusting that we're going to have a peaceful transition, and that whoever will be declared the winner will appreciate the fact that the majority have made their choice or their decision, and the fact that it will be prudent and an expectation, a great expectation of the people of Kenya, that insightful or incitement statements will not be made by that person who will not have succeeded to be elected, or politicians from allied parties within their coalitions. So I want to pleasantly imagine that we are going to learn from the history that we've had. And in this country, Gituko, I'll tell you this, that Kenyans are generally rational to a great extent until that rationality is stretched beyond elastic limits by the incitement of politicians. And so we need to appreciate that politicians have to know that upon their shoulders, imaginably strong, that Kenyans have placed so much hope, that they know that the duty and responsibility of nation building is placed upon those shoulders or the laps of our leaders. And so the entire world's eyes are upon this country. The eyes of the country are upon Bomas and Chebukati, and what kind of reactions will be drawn from various parts of the country once that announcement is made. We expect order, we expect civility, but I think we also expect good manners.
And I'm getting some reminders here that in August 2017, yes, Raila Odinga was not in the auditorium as the president-elect was being declared, but he had been there alongside his NASA principals hours before the announcement by IEBC, but left. Of course, they had also been pursuing some more time to allow for verification of results. That never happened and eventually ended up at the Supreme Court, and that election was nullified. And Rashid, I'm being told that in 2013, something else also happened, because Uhuru Kenyatta at that time had already left cabinet. So had William Ruto, I remember, in 2013. But as soon as they were declared president-elect and deputy president-elect, they were accorded special security, obviously, but also their homes, both in Nairobi and up-country, were secured, more security deployed to them. And of course, there was established the president-elect's office. It was at the KICC. So maybe these are things that may happen, whether it's Raila Odinga, whether it's William Ruto. And if it is William Ruto, then it's interesting because he's already the deputy president. So having an office of the president-elect, we don't know where it will be situated. If it is Rigathi Gachagua being elected as deputy president-elect, he'll have a special office also and more security to his home or family. And the same would happen to Martha Karua if she's elected to be deputy president-elect. The same sort of security would be beefed up at her home in Nairobi, but also in her upcountry home. And the same for Raila Odinga if you are to be announced the president-elect in this.
Na nafikiri Sam, hilo ni swala ambalo kwa likizungumziwa sana wakati wa kampeni, kwamba tunasema kwamba tufanye kampeni na ikifika mahali tukishamaliza uchaguzi, matokeo yakipatikana, kwa utaratibu tuangalie yule ambaye atakuwa amepata wadhifa huo na yule aliyopo, kuwe na kule kuchukua mamlaka ama kupokeza mamlaka mwingine kwa njia ya utaratibu, maelewano, amani, bila tashwishi yote. Nafikiri ni swala ambalo Wakenya wangependa kuliona. Lakini pia kwa taarifa ni kwamba ule msafara ambao tumeweza kuona wakati ule pale Bomas haukuwa msafara ambao tunatarajia uwe ni wa mgombea wa urais kwa tiketi ya Azimio la Umoja wa Kenya Bwana Raila Amolo Odinga, lakini labda muda wote kutoka sasa tunatarajia kwamba msafara wake labda utakuwa unatoka maeneo ya Karen. Basi tukipata picha za moja kwa moja tutakueleza msafara huo unaelekea wapi. Lakini kwa hivi sasa ni kwamba kwa taarifa zonazo ni kwamba yale magari tulikuwa tumeona yakiingia pale haukuwa ni msafara wake. Lakini pia kuna jambo moja ambalo mmeweza kulizungumzia na unapozungumza kuhusu masuala ya kuchukua mamlaka kwa ofisi na kadhalika. Tukiangalia ule mseto wa viongozi katika kambi zote mbili, tunaona kwamba pale kuna watu ambao ni weledi wa kazi, kwamba kuna mtu ambaye ako upande wa Azimio, lakini mtu aliye katika Kenya Kwanza anajua yule jamaa ni mzuri kwa masuala fulani, na kuna watu ambao wako Azimio akiangalia upande wa Kenya Kwanza anajua ni uzuri. Tunaweza pata siasa komavu kwa yoyote akiingia madarakani, anapokuwa anaunda serikali yake katika nyadhifa muhimu, akavunja utamaduni uliokuwepo na akabisha hodi kwa kambi ya simu kwenda kutafuta utendaji, akajumuisha katika serikali yake. Tunaweza kuona kitu kama hicho kwa mara ya kwanza taifa letu la Kenya.
Inawezekana. Unakumbuka kwamba haitakuwa mara ya kwanza kufanyika.
Nasema kulingana na zile siasa zilivyokuwa, yani kwa sababu kumekuwa na siasa kali na kampeni kali.
Lakini sasa hivi huenda ikawa ni changamoto kubwa sana. Kwa mfano, acha tuchukue taswira hii. Kwa majadiliano haya, Bwana Odinga ana ule muungano wake wa Azimio. Alafu kwa mfano akipata ushindi, itakuwaje kwamba ana vyama karibu 26 ambavyo vimemuunga mkono, aondoke katika vyama hivyo 26 badala ya kuchukua mmoja wa hao ama wote, karibu wote kutoka mrengo huo, kumfanya waziri ama katibu wa kudumu, achaenda akachukue mtu kutoka kwa mfano mrengo wa Kenya Kwanza, ama kwa mfano naibu wa rais William Ruto awe ndiye ametangazwa mshindi, na kumbuka kwamba kuna vyama ambavyo vimemuunga mkono na kumpatia huo ushindi. Itakuwaje kwamba ataacha kuchagua watu katika mrengo huo, wengine ambao walimpatia walimuunga mkono wawe sio wakuu wa vyama, aende katika upande ule mwingine? Iwapo atazingatia hiyo kwa mara ya kwanza, kuna wale ambao watamchukulia kwamba ni msaliti. Kwa hivyo itakuwa ni vyema kwamba hata akitaka kwanza ajadiliane na wenzake katika mrengo, alafu apeane muda ateue baadaye, lakini asiteue moja kwa moja. Lakini ingekuwa ni vyema sana kwa ishara.
Tutaletaje mtagusano na kuondoa tofauti za kisiasa? Kama labda nimesema na mhitaji Steve, na nyinyi mnajua uwezo wake Steve, na mnasema usimchukue kwa sababu alikuwa upande mwingine. Je, tutaweza kufika pale mahali tunataka kama taifa?
Yawezekana, kwa sababu ukiangalia katika mataifa endelevu kama vile Marekani, tukiangalia kama rais wa atamu ya 16 Abraham Lincoln aliwateua wale ambao walikuwa ni wapinzani wakubwa sana wake. Ukiangalia Rais Obama pia akawateua watu ambao walikuwa wapinzani wake wakuu. Kwa hivyo inawezekana, lakini sio jambo rahisi. Inategemea na ukakamavu wa kiongozi huyo, jinsi ambavyo moyo wake na fikra zake zimenyooka, na jinsi ambavyo anatilia utaifa mbele, ili kwamba kwa kuleta watu pamoja, na kwa sababu ya kampeni ambazo huwa zinakuwa zimechacha moto, unajua kwamba hataki ukuta wa taifa ubomoke. Unajua usema kwamba usipoziba ufa ni ukuta utajenga. Kwa hivyo kama ni hivyo, itabidi kwamba angalie, je, ni achague mtu kiongozi kutoka kwa pande pinzani, ama atafute mtu kutoka kabila hilo na isikuwe pengine mwanasiasa shupavu, ili kwamba iweze kufanyika namna hiyo. Huenda pia ikafanyika hivyo.
Na Bobby, labda alafanya MP Steve, kwa sababu tuliona wakati fulani pale kulikuwa na tofauti nchini Kenya, tukana kwamba viongozi walikuja wakatembea, kama mnakumbuka, katikati jiji la Nairobi, kuonesha wananchi kwamba tumeweka tofauti zetu kando, tutakatusonge pamoja. Lakini hatua mojawapo ya kuweka tofauti ni kama kuna mtu ambaye ana umuhimu katika ujenzi wa taifa, na haijalisha ukambi gani, wewe kuweza kumleta kambi yako, nafikiri moja kwa moja umeondoa zile hisia na wananchi watakuelewa na nchi itasonga mbele.
I think that was directed to Bobby, but let me give it a shot. So in principle, allow me to answer in English. Struggling not as fluent as Javas, yeah. Now, in principle, there is nothing wrong with political cross-pollination, because you are shopping for talent, you are shopping for allies. In any event, the unity of the state is more important than partisan political positions. But in our local context, we will also appreciate that what happens is not necessary to advance national interest. Sometimes cross-pollination is founded on very narrow parochial interests, like just killing opposition. You know, we saw this since time immemorial. In Moi's time, he would co-opt members of the political opposition into his government to silence them. And he would appoint as many as, and Bobby Z can tell us about that, because, you know, before we had this new constitution that delinked the executive from the legislature, you had nearly a third of members of the National Assembly serving in the cabinet, sometimes even from the political opposition. That makes it very difficult to check the government. I think what we must not do is to create or inject impurities, political impurities that can contaminate the ideology of a political party, because we still need to have a clear, coherent political communication coming from the political opposition. You have the leader of minority that says this is the second most largest party in parliament. Ideally, we shouldn't be having people aligned to the political to the minority party serving in the majority government. You get? Because then that undermines accountability. But if you're looking for technocrats, bureaucrats, in this election we've seen the likes of David Ndii on the other side, the likes of Professor Makau Mutua on this other side. If for one reason or another, whoever wins the presidency wants to co-opt either of these technocrats, they would be at liberty to do so, because then they'll be coming to lend their professional expertise. That's okay.
Na pia Bob, labda kuna mtu atasema itakuwa ngumu kwa sababu hata watu wakienda kupiga kura, labda pengine kila mrengo ulikuwa kuna tayari unajua tukishinda huyu ni nani nani. Na kuna lile swala kwamba watu wanaogopa kwamba anayeshinda anachukua kila kitu, kumaanisha anayeshindwa hana nafasi kisheria ya kuwa na nyadhifa yake kama kiongozi wa upinzani rasmi kisheria. Mlichukua ya maoni wakati tunasema tunasubiri katiba ya mwaka 2010. Hili mbona alikuweza kuafikiwa?
Manake ni kwa sababu ya mfumo ambao tulikubaliana kama Wakenya tuwe nao katika uongozi wa ngazi ya utekelezaji wa kitaifa, yani national executive, na tulichukua mfumo wa kimombo tunasema presidential. Na kwa hivyo sasa unaona kwamba ni zile taasisi za dola ama vitengo vya dola ambavyo ndivyo ambavyo vinatiliwa msingi na kipaumbele. Kwa hivyo kuna national executive, kuna bunge la kitaifa, alafu kuna mahakama. Kwa hivyo katika huu mfumo utakuta kwamba na ule mfumo ambao sasa upinzani ama kiongozi wa upinzani yupo katika bungeni na wadhifa wake bungeni maalum, utakuta kwamba ni katika ule mfumo wa ubunge, yani parliamentary system. Na hapa tumejaribu kuileta hapo awali. Ukiangalia rasimu za katiba za awali kama ni ile ya Bomas na hata ile ya kwanza, sisi kama Committee of Experts tulikuwa tumeichapisha Harmonized Draft Constitution of Kenya, ilikuwa inajaribu kuleta hii mifumo yote miwili pamoja, mfumo wa urais. Kwa hivyo iwe kama mseto, mfumo wa urais na mfumo wa ubunge, lakini mwisho wa Kenya wakaamua kwamba ni mfumo wa urais ambao tutakuwa nao, lakini si ati kwamba hakuna upinzani. Tofauti ni jinsi chanzo na chimbuko cha serikali, na serikali inaendesha shughuli zake kutoka wapi. Kwa hivyo mfumo wa ubunge, serikali
unamshtua Steve
chimbuko. Kwa hivyo serikali inaendesha shughuli zake kutoka bunge. Unakuta waziri mkuu yuko bungeni, mpinzani wake ambaye ndio kiongozi wa upande ambao ulishindwa ama ulikuwa wa pili wakati wa uchaguzi, ndio anakuwa kiongozi ama kinara wa upinzani. Kwetu shughuli bungeni ambazo sasa zinaongozwa na tuseme yule ndio kiongozi wa masuala ama shughuli za upinzani zinachukuliwa, wadhifa unachukuliwa na kiongozi wa upinzani, leader of the minority. Na pia bungeni kuna ule upande ama wale wabunge na maseneta ambao ni wa kutoka chama ama mrengo ambao rais anatoka, na kuna wale ambao pia ni wa upinzani. Kwa hivyo si ati kwamba hakuna upinzani, ni mfumo tu na utaratibu wa jinsi upande wa upinzani unaweza kutekeleza majukumu yake. Kwa hivyo hilo ndilo tofauti, na tunaweza kumbuka kwamba manake hasa wakati ule tulikuwa tunaendesha mchakato wa BBI, kulikuwa na hilo swala la kwamba pengine hakuna kiongozi wa upinzani, ndiposa upinzani hauna mashiko ama ushawishi wowote. Lakini tukumbuke jinsi upinzani, na hata wakati ule mheshimiwa aliyekuwa waziri mkuu Raila Odinga kuanzia mwaka 2013 hadi mwaka 2017, yeye hakuwa bungeni, lakini jinsi alivyoendesha shughuli na kusimamia shughuli za upande wa upinzani. Na kwa hivyo sio ati kwamba upinzani hauna nguvu katika mfumo kama huu.
And just a question, Steve, because whoever is declared the president and they find themselves, they're in State House, but they don't have the majority in Parliament. For instance, you don't have the majority in the National Assembly. So the lead of majority is not from your party. What happens? How do you deal with government business in the House? Who leads the government business? Is it your lead of minority? Or how do you deal with it?
Well, happily that scenario may not, okay, let me not say may not obtain, because looking at the numbers, it seems that Azimio has a slight majority on the number of elected members of the National Assembly. The leader of majority by law, by constitutional definition, is the leader of the party that has the highest number of elected members, and the leader in the National Assembly, and the leader of minority is the second most largest party in the National Assembly. If it so happens that the leader of majority and the head of the executive come from opposing camps, we would still expect them at the very minimum to have some harmonious work relationship. We will expect, Parliament has been designed to work independently outside the influence of the office of the President of the Executive. So that if it's about generating bills, the bills will be generated by the Cabinet. The Attorney General will be responsible for preparation of those bills and then share them with the leader of majority. The leader of majority is, by law, mandated to ensure that those bills are tabled and canvassed. If he declines, then there would be need for judicial intervention, because then he would be sabotaging the functions of that office. The function of that office is supposed to go on smoothly, whether the leader of majority is within the same party as the president or not, whether they have fallen out or whether they have a harmonious.
But how practical is that? Because remember the different bills that have been passed in the 12th Parliament, whether it's the security laws or it's the VAT introduction on fuel, and you find that leader of majority then, Aden Duale, would be at the forefront, assuming that President Kenyatta's party was ODM, led by John Mbadi, and Aden Duale does not believe in what the government was pushing for. How do you reconcile that? Because Aden Duale would have been forced to propagate something he doesn't believe in.
Well, you know, there's no limit on how far someone can go to sabotage a constitutional office. But what we do know for sure is that the Constitution expects a harmonious work relationship between the two offices, regardless of the composition of the nature of their relationship between the office of the president and the office of the leader of majority. I think that scenario has not already played, but if it were to happen, if Parliament does not want to advance the legislative interest of the executive, then the executive is at liberty to move to court to compel them to pass legislation that are key. If they cannot pass those legislation, then we would have to review. The political accountability would be the executive would then retreat back and say, you know what, I am going to implement by Parliament. If Parliament decides to sabotage national interest, then they do not punish the president. You punish the general population, which includes the voters.
All right, it's now 4:30 p.m. We've been here for more than 5 hours waiting for the fifth. And I think, Lulu, we have to let go for another team to continue with the very important duty of waiting, because that's our work. My name is Sam Gituku.
Nami nasema shukran sana kwa wageni wetu siku ya leo, lakini haimaanishi kwamba tunaacha kupeperusha taarifa hizi moja kwa moja, lakini kuna wengine ambao wanaingia sasa wanashikilia zamu ni Wahiga Mwaura, Jeff Koinange, Vigilu Badili, Bi Mashima Kapombe.
Na bila shaka tulikuwa watatu, hatujabahatika kupata matokeo moja kwa moja kwa rais wa 5, lakini tuna wenzetu wanne wanakamilisha marais wa 4 watakuwa wanaingia studioni ili watupe matokeo, yani nani atakuwa rais wa 5. Mtazamaji, tunasema asante zidi kutizama Citizen TV. Tunakupeleka moja kwa moja ukumbini Bomas ujue kinachoendelea.
Simama Wakenya wote, simama, simama wewe shujaa, simama. Nchi yangu, jukumu langu, mimi ni shujaa, shujaa. Najivunia taifa langu, mimi ni shujaa, shujaa. Simama Wakenya wote, simama, simama wewe shujaa, simama. Simama Wakenya wote, simama, simama wewe shujaa, simama.
Kenya yaito beautiful, mazingira tobwate colorful, aba Kenya na bantu wonderful, proud to be Kenyan, I'm grateful. Na bujinguru chaito, chinguru chaito, tosigeta basani benze yaito, omorembo ito.
Aseo wamo, tochite amo, tusonge kwa pamoja. Tumetoka mbali, tunaenda mbali, sote kwa pamoja. Nchi yangu, jukumu langu, mimi ni shujaa, shujaa. Najivunia taifa langu, mimi ni shujaa, shujaa. Simama Wakenya wote, simama, simama, simama wewe shujaa, simama. Simama Wakenya wote, simama, simama wewe shujaa, simama.
Neba duo kali ntuntuli kuanga tugu tuangalio katumo kiguka. Kenya yaito nese ya mashujuka. Neba kigano katingu suka.
Yangu, jukumu langu, yangu. Hatuchagui kazi, kazi ni kazi. Boda boda, vijana mitaani.
Kenya yaito molembe. No bomo no wachani talikende. Nande tiganya saya tolende. Atokitera tuagate botambe.
Nchi yangu, jukumu langu, mimi ni shujaa, shujaa. Najivunia taifa langu, mimi ni shujaa.
Particularly about the integrity of the IEBC technology and server. We have intelligence and reports that their system was penetrated and hacked, and that some of the IEBC officials actually committed electoral offenses, and some of them ought to have been arrested if they were not arrested. I think you will remember that I had earlier stated that Bomas of Kenya was a crime scene, and that was way before the results of this. The reason that I say Bomas of Kenya was a crime scene is because as Kenyans were busy waiting for the outcome of this election,
Nchi yangu, jukumu langu, mimi ni shujaa, shujaa. Najivunia taifa langu, mimi ni shujaa, shujaa. Simama
commission IEBC to account to the people of Kenya to deliver a free, fair, credible, verifiable election. The people of Kenya deserve nothing less. Thank you very much. I will now give it to my colleagues. And lastly, because my colleagues are indicated, lastly, may I say that there is we will be able to know and to tell the Kenyan people, because a result that is not verifiable is not a result, and therefore that is our and the chairman had actually assured Kenyans that he will run this process transparently, which he has not.
Is the party chairman, party leader, presidential candidate coming here?
I will not take questions for now, but we were not in a position to ask our party leader to come before we actually verify the results. So the first step was to verify the results, which we have not been able to do.
What more can you tell us about the
Yeah, I think that's enough. That's enough. Thank you very much.
Ukinyesha tusinyeshewe, tuwe salama. Serikali kaingilia, tapunguza gharama. The day is finally here, tunahama. Finally, usawa kwa wote. Hata yule mapato ni duni, malazi yopata. Sisi wana Kenya tunajenga. Tuanzeni kujenga. Watoto wetu wasikose mahali pa kwenda. Chukua mawe na simiti weka kwa mabega. Tunajenga. Tunajenga.
Kenya. The future is bright. With a big for agenda. The future is bright. Tunavuta kwa pamoja. The future is bright. Ya haki Kenya ni makao yetu. Twafurahia uhuru wetu. Ya haki Kenya ni makao yetu. Twafurahia uhuru wetu. Kenya yasonga. Kenya yasonga. Wajali zetu wazalendo yasonga. Tunajenga nchi. We celebrate Kenya. I hear a whisper in the wind of a people with a dream, different colors of a nation come together for a win.
We share spirit deep within. Our hearts beat in the rhythm. Different faces of the nation come together for the win.
Pamoja tunaweza, twajitenga. Pamoja we can. We are. We rise. We spread. Beyond our limits set. We are. Stronger. We have. Fire. We are. Fire. We are. We are. We are. Warriors. Warriors. We are. Warriors. We are. We are. We are. Do the incredible.
This is Kenya's Choice 2022, and many thanks for keeping it Citizen TV, even as we keep our cameras and our eyes fixed on the Bomas of Kenya, the National Tallying Center. My name is Wahiga Mwaura, and I'm not alone here in studio. I'm together with...
Naam, bila shaka mimi ni Mashirima Kapombe, tukiwa tunaendelea tu kusubiri tangazo hilo kutoka IEBC. Mwenyekiti wa IEBC Wafula Chebukati alikuwa anatarajiwa kutangaza rais aliyechaguliwa mwendo wa saa 9, wakaahirisha hadi mwendo wa saa 10. Sijui kama wanangojea saa 11 ndio iwe the 5th at 5 p.m.
That is the question we are all asking, and Victoria Rubadiri, all eyes, of course, are at the Bomas of Kenya. And this is after slightly over 14.1 million Kenyans took to the polling stations on August 9th, and their votes taking that journey from the over 46,000 polling stations to now the Form 34C, bearing the final result of the presidential race. 4 presidential candidates campaigned, they debated, and now waiting for this moment of reckoning. But we also have
Jeff Koinange here in the house, folks, and I tell you, it's been a wait and a wait and a wait. The patience of Kenyans is wearing. It's going to wear at some point, because you know, Chebukati promised to make an announcement 3 p.m. It's now 5 p.m.
The choirs can only do so much.
The choir. I think the fat lady has come and sang again. So we're waiting. It's a waiting game.
But something very interesting, Jeff, happened about a little under 30 minutes ago. The chief agent of Raila Odinga, Saitaba Ole Kanchori, called for a sort of impromptu press briefing just outside that auditorium there at the Bomas of Kenya, and said some very interesting things that may shed light on why we continue to wait and why presidential candidates and their agents have actually walked out of Bomas, including members of the diplomatic corps, and are now holding impromptu meetings on different parts of the premises of the Bomas of Kenya. This is what Saitaba said. He said, this election is not verifiable from where they sit. He raised questions with the chairman of the IEBC that they feel they do not have answers to. And when the chief agent of Raila Odinga was asked whether his presidential candidate is expected, he said that Raila Odinga will not be called to Bomas until his team has verified the results. I have agreed with them, and these results are contained in the Form 34C, a compilation of Form 34Bs from the 290 constituencies plus one from the diaspora vote. And so that's what we know at this moment. Obviously, you can tell that something is afoot for an announcement that was to be made at 3 p.m. Almost 2 hours later, no sign of the commissioners, a lot of activity there, and then this statement by the chief agent of Raila Odinga giving us a bit of an idea of where the dispute may be, and that is what may have caused this particular delay. Thanks for staying with us, wherever you're joining us from in Kenya and around the world. And let me also introduce our guests who are here with us. Bobby Mkangu continues to remain with us, an advocate of the High Court. Thanks for your patience today and just for bearing with this. We want to pick your mind a little bit. We're also joined by Titus Mahanu, an advocate of the High Court. And Titus, I can start immediately with you. You listened to that press briefing. What do you make of it?
Of course, under the Constitution, any candidate that has participated in an election has a right to either accept the results, has a right to reject the results based on how they view and based on the grounds that they feel ought to be put out in the public there.
Okay. What do you think Saitaba was not saying?
As to try and read into his intention,
yes,
a bit difficult, but what I can say is I foresee a situation where this election is going to be challenged.
You foresee that, and we have some of the timelines, and we'll be showing our viewers a bit later on what that looks like. But my goodness, this is quite a trend.
And definitely, if the elections are going to be challenged, we are looking at a scenario where the petition challenging the declaration has to be filed within 7 days. And 14 days after filing of that petition, the Supreme Court needs to determine it. Now, the question will be, or it will depend as to how the verdict will come. If the Supreme Court will be able to overturn the declaration, then we are staring at another 60 days within which another fresh election needs to be held.
And of course,
we are looking at probably towards the end of October before we can conclude this exercise of elections.
Nadhani Mkangi, ukiangalia jinsi hali ilivyo pale, baadhi ya viongozi kutoka pande zote mbili walikuwa wametulia awali. Sasa hivi unaona ni kama wengine wanatoka, wengine wanarudi, wengine wanapigana pambaja. Je, inakupa matumaini kwamba kutakuwa na tangazo leo la rais aliyechaguliwa?
Nadhani manake mwenyekiti na tunasema ndio tuseme mwenye shughuli ya leo, Mheshimiwa Wafula Chebukati alikuwa amewatangazia Wakenya na tunaweza kusema ulimwengu mzima, manake macho yanaangazia Kenya leo, kwamba atatoa taarifa ama matangazo yake rasmi kuhusu ni nani ameibuka mshindi wa uchaguzi wa urais wa mwaka huu hivi leo, na hata alikuwa ametaja kwamba hii shughuli itaanza saa 9 mchana. Kwa hivyo nadhani ataendelea na shughuli na atatoa matangazo yake. Tumesikia pia kutoka upande wa mgombea wa Azimio Kenya One wakisema kwamba hawajaridhika na mchakato haswa kuhakikisha matokeo kufikia sasa, lakini hakutoa taarifa za ziada. Pengine kwa upande wao manake wanajua siku za makataa.
Bobby, if I can interrupt you, just let our viewers know, there seem to be some leaders exiting the Bomas of Kenya. I've seen outgoing Murang'a Governor Mwangi wa Iria is leaving. Outgoing Governor James Ongwae should be of Kisii also leaving. A sign, and of course they are Azimio leaning. We don't know where they're headed to, possibly to converge either at KICC at the Azimio Command Center, or maybe even to meet with presidential candidate Raila Odinga, but that is their motorcade, and they have left the Bomas of Kenya. And this is a kind of activity we may see in line with that statement by Saitabao Ole Kanchori that they haven't verified the results. They are not clearly satisfied if Chebukati was to read or make an announcement right now. And so this is very telling. Mkangu, you can continue.
Nilikuwa nasema kwamba siku za makataa za kikatiba ni kesho. Kwa hivyo hatujui kama upande wa mgombea aliyekuwa waziri mkuu Raila Odinga wanataka kuiomba tume iwape fursa ya wao wenyewe kuhakikisha kwamba wanakubaliana na matokeo ambayo yatatangazwa leo, lakini hiyo inaashiria kwamba pengine wanajua matokeo, kwa sababu huwezi kukikataa ambacho hujakiona ama hujakisikia. Lakini kama ulivyouliza, nadhani shughuli itaendelea, manake hapo awali tulipokuwa tunachanganua na wenzangu tulikumbuka kwamba katika chaguzi za hapo awali za mwaka 2013 2017 mgombea Raila Odinga hakuwepo wakati mara ya kwanza mwenyekiti Isaka San na mwaka 2017 Wafula Chebukati alikuwa anatangaza matokeo. Kwa hivyo nadhani hilo la kwamba hao hawajaridhika na ambacho kama nilivyosema pengine washajua ni nini kitakachotangazwa. Kama hawatakuwa Wahiga amesema kwamba tumeona wengine wakiondoka, lakini nadhani shughuli itaendelea. Wafula Chebukati atafanya matangazo yake, na kwa sababu huu sio mwisho wa mchakato, manake matangazo ya Wafula Chebukati sio hapa, mfumo wetu sio kama nchi jirani Tanzania ambapo hakuna fursa ama nafasi ya kupinga matokeo katika mahakama ama katika taasisi nyingine. Hapa kuna hiyo fursa na kama hawajakubaliana nayo basi wana yeyote, manake hata sasa hatujajua matokeo.
Lakini pia Chebukati alisema kwamba atahakikisha kwamba hili tangazo halitafanywa usiku.
Naam.
Kuna uwezekano kwamba si kama Titus anaweza jibu hilo, kuna uwezekano wa tangazo hili kutolewa kesho?
Naam, nitajaribu kujibu kwa Kiswahili. Kulingana na sheria, kuna sheria ambayo inaitwa Interpretation, General Provisions and Interpretation Act, Cap 2 ya Kenya, ambayo inapatia mwongozo kamili wa kuchanganua mambo ya muda. Kwa sababu kikatiba Chebukati amepewa siku 7. Lakini ukiangalia katika ile sheria, siku 7 katika kisheria inamaanisha siku kama 8-9 hivi. Manake siku ambaye jambo lafaa kufanyika huwa haihesabiwi. Kwa hivyo bado ana muda, na hata ikiwa labda kungekuwa na kazi imemzidia hivyo kana kwamba hawajamaliza mambo ya verifiability, angeweza kuenda kotini na kuuliza muda zaidi. Manake katiba haijatoa mwongozo kamili ya kwamba siku 7 zinapoisha basi hiyo shughuli inakuwa imeishia hapa. Hapana, imesema tu ana uwezo wa kutoa uamuzi wake chini ya muda wa siku 7. lakini kwa sababu tuko na Supreme Court hapa Kenya, ikiwa huo muda umemwishia, anaweza enda kotini akauliza muda zaidi.
Okay. Bobby, let me bring you in here because there's a lot of speculation, especially on social media, as to what appears on that Form 34C and whose signature should be appended on it. I've been seeing talk of some chief agents refusing to sign that form. Are they needed for that declaration to be made?
Well, at the end of the day, and we've seen even forms that stem from the polling stations, which some do not have signatures from the agents, and so that detail is recorded, and the signatures from the agents indicate a consensus, an agreement with what is indicated in those forms. So at the end of the day, the forms were still transmitted. The returning officers still did bring them to the National Tallying Office. So it is not the signatures of the agents that particularly legitimize the legality of the form itself. Because it's a form that is of the honors of the chairperson of the IEBC as the National Returning Officer. So the signatures from the agents, at the end of the day, do infuse a level of credibility and agreement as to what they indicate, but it does not stop the National Returning Officer from declaring the elections because one side has refused to sign or has indicated reservations with what is in the form. So at the end of the day, if the chairperson decides to make the formal declaration, he will go ahead and do it and indicate that there were reservations from whatever side it was and the particular aspects of the reservations. And then those issues will be dealt with in the next step, and especially so if the side which is opposed to the declaration and the content of the form does choose to use the next step, and that is to petition at the Supreme Court.
And basically, just to probably an addition, the moment you see a candidate to an election or their representatives objecting, disputing, or refusing to sign Form 34C, just like at the polling stations, you are you ought to know that you are staring at an election petition.
Na Titus, kidogo tusikize kile ambacho kinaendelea, maana kinaonekana kwamba kuna nyimbo sijui ni za sifa ama ni za nini. Hebu tusikize. Sijui kile ambacho kinaendelea Bomas.
Serikali yetu imbioni, serikali yetu imbioni, tunafuata mwendo wetu Kenya. Heko jamhuri, heko jamhuri, heko jamhuri, Kenya yetu yaenda mbele. Heko jamhuri, heko jamhuri, heko jamhuri, Kenya yetu yaenda mbele. Twaenda mbio, Kenya yaenda mbele. Heko you.
Marcus.
And folks, if you're listening in, you can tell from the body language of the people in that auditorium. It's very telling. It's very telling. You can see Kenya Kwanza are literally going with the flow. And a moment ago, you saw the likes of Siaya Governor-elect James Orengo leaving this area. And his body language said it all. Wahiga, I don't know if you noticed that.
There's a lot of movement here. This is a secure part of the auditorium. It's very hard to get in there, Jeff. And you must have the right sort of accreditation. We're seeing members of the diplomatic corps making their way there. You're seeing agents of presidential candidates also. You wonder what's happening behind the scenes. What are we not aware of at this time? But the body language here, Jeff, doesn't need much interpretation, does it?
No. They are going with the flow. It looks like mostly Kenya Kwanza who is doing that.
And so here's what we know so far. About 40 minutes ago or so, after silence from the agents of both leading presidential candidates, Saitabao Ole Kanchori had an impromptu press briefing just on the lawn there of the Bomas of Kenya. He said from where they sit, the verification was opaque. They did their tally and they have not been able to access the Form 34C. They have questions. They believe the election is not verifiable. And for that reason, they will not be asking or inviting their presidential candidate to make his way to the Bomas of Kenya until they have that confirmation. So that is their challenge at this particular moment. Remember, a few days ago, Saitabao had actually walked up to the dais there and stated that the Bomas of Kenya is a crime scene. Remember, also, Wafula Chebukati had stated that he will make this announcement during daylight hours. Jeff, we have about 52 minutes to 6 p.m. If he wants to stick within that, he's got another 52 minutes or so to make that announcement. But I'm told we also have some more news from the IEBC. Mashirima.
Naam, bila shaka zile taarifa ambazo naarifiwa kwamba tuendelee kwanza huku tukingoja taarifa hizo ziweze kuthibitishwa, lakini kama tumekuwa tukisema hapa, hizo nyimbo si za sifa, ni za uzalendo, lakini inaonekana ni upande mmoja ambao unahisi kwamba ni wazalendo hivi sasa. Tumekuwa tukitarajia kwamba tangazo hili litafanyika toka saa 9, lakini baadhi ya viongozi haswa kutoka Azimio la Umoja tumewaona wakiondoka kutoka hapo Bomas. Kama alivyosema awali Wahiga, ni kwamba wakala mkuu wa upande wa Azimio Saitabao Ole Kanchori alikuwa na wanahabari hapo awali na kusema kwamba wanatashwishi kwa sababu hawajaweza kuona hiyo fomu 34C ambayo ndio imejumlisha matokeo kutoka zile fomu 34B. Kumbuka walikuwa wanahakiki fomu 34A zilizokuwa kwenye Kim's kit, kisha wanalinganisha na zile original copies, kisha wanalinganisha na kile ambacho kilikuwa kimenakiliwa kwa 34B na kuzijumlisha kwenye fomu 34C. Kile ambacho tulikuwa tunatarajia ni kwamba hadi kufikia sasa Wafula Chebukati atakuja na fomu 34D ambayo ndio cheti cha kumkabidhi mshindi wa uchaguzi huu wa urais. Kinyang'anyiro ambacho bila shaka kimekuwa kigumu, sijui nisemeje, manake zile takwimu ambazo tumekuwa tukiona ni kwamba hawa wagombeaji wawili wakuu wamekuwa kikaribiana sana. Lakini nadhani kwa sasa kile ambacho wengi wanataka kujua ni nini haswa kinachoendelea Bomas, mbali na wale ambao tunawaona wakiongoza shughuli hiyo kwa nyimbo za uzalendo. Kwa wageni wetu hapa tumeona haswa wale mabalozi na baadhi ya viongozi wakiwa wanakutana kule nyuma. Hivi sasa tunaona gavana wa kuchaguliwa James Orengo aliyekuwa mgombeaji katika eneo la Embakasi
pamoja na Nairobi woman rep elect Esther Passaris in the middle of that group, and others huddled, conversing, discussing on numerous phone calls happening at the same time. And the assembly there at that auditorium, Mashirima, has changed. A lot of empty seats now. A lot of people have left. Some we've seen them exiting in their vehicles there at the entrance of the entrance/exit of the Bomas of Kenya. And so this shot really telling us a lot in terms of the consultations that are happening at this particular time.
Now, Waihiga, awali ulikuwa unatueleza sehemu ambapo tumeona hao mabalozi na viongozi wengine wakiwa wanaingia. Unasema ni sehemu ambayo si rahisi kufika. Nadhani wewe na Nimrod mlijaribu huko.
We were looking for some interviews yesterday, and that is a difficult place to access. And there's a lot of commotion around there. We don't know if all the commissioners are in there. That's where their lounge is. That's where they retreat to. That's where a lot of the work is happening beyond the validation verification you are seeing at the floor of the auditorium. There's a lot that was happening behind that corridor where the rooms are placed. Many of us journalists who are at the Bomas were not able to access. But obviously, some of the big questions that have been asked at this time has been, will IEBC complete this process on time? It does look like they will. Who will they declare the winner? Well, we're still waiting.
We're still waiting. And also, for the fact of clearing this up for a lot of our viewers, because Bomas of Kenya has been the host of a lot of political posturing, if you will, where we see a lot of the political agents oftentimes being blamed by the IEBC commissioners for delaying the process. And when you look at this, to our two guests, in terms of people leaving the amphitheater, some coming back in, phone calls flying here and there, what impact does it have on the process? At the end of the day, the Supreme Court said it's not an event, it's a process, one that started at the polling stations on August 9th. And according to that Maina Kiai ruling, that is where the presidential race was won or lost. So when we see these displays, what does it mean? Does it have any impact, any bearing whatsoever on that process? I'll start with you, Bobby.
In terms of the technical process, not so much. Mm-hmm. Because we know, and Kenyans have been watching the process of tallying, verifying up to this stage, and some of them also have been doing their own independent tallying, because as you indicated, the 34A forms are available on IEBC's website. So that aspect of it is so that there is transparency in the process, but also everyone can eventually verify what Chebukati announces and as against what is in the forms. So in terms of that technical aspect, in terms of the program and the timing that the chairperson has indicated, I think that this does not have any great impact. We must remember also this ceremonial arrangement is very much again for the optics of accountability, of transparency, of inclusion, but it could be the case because it's not a direct or categorical constitutional requirement that we must have this kind of ceremony where we even invite the diplomatic corps to come and you witness this. I think it's more in the cause of considering this to be a major national and state event that the IEBC does make it, and declare in this very, very regaliad, if I may use that term, kind of event. Definitely, I think it has an impact, as I said, in terms of the optics and what those communicate out there to the Kenyans who are following this particularly, but also to the rest of the world, because they have been following this, they have been watching the events at IEBC, at Bomas of Kenya. Now we are seeing the choirs are back early in the morning. It was very much a celebratory mood with everyone in the auditorium, getting up and dancing and getting down, as we say, to the music. That the different choirs and musicians were tuning out. So this I think has more impact in terms of what it communicates.
Okay. Gentlemen, if you could just look at the screens right now, look at live pictures of quite a few people literally walking out. There are quite a few people walking out, even as the religious...
But I'm not sure where... That was the Kenya Kwanza presidential candidate, UDA presidential candidate, William Ruto. I'm not sure where he's heading to, because what we're seeing on the auditorium is a build-up in terms of arrival of different delegations here to the dais there. We've seen Interreligious Council members, Jeff.
Right.
They've filled up some of those seats now at the stage. Archbishop Jackson Ole Sapit of the Anglican Church, Archbishop Martin Kivuva, the chair of the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops, Bishop Emeritus David Oginde, who's the chair of the, I think, Evangelicals Association of Kenya, and others. We're now seeing also presidential candidates also arriving. So I suspect Deputy President William Ruto, who's the Kenya Kwanza candidate, is being routed to probably be somewhere behind the scenes here, as it seems that we are now closer than ever before to that announcement, Jeff, that Kenyans and the region and the continent and maybe the world have been waiting for since 3 p.m.
Inaonekana kuna shughuli hapo ni kana kwamba lile tangazo ambalo tumekuwa tukilingoja litafanyika muda wowote kutoka sasa. Lakini unajua wanahabari huwa tuna tabia ya kusema muda wote kutoka sasa, alafu tutaendelea kusema muda wote kutoka sasa hadi saa 1. Kwa hivyo ni kuwa tuna subra tuweze kuona kile ambacho kitaendelea. Namwona huyo ni mgombeaji wa chama cha Agano, David Mwaure, akiwa pia anaingia hapo kwenye eneo hilo la Bomas, ambapo viongozi hao wa dini tayari wamekaa kwenye viti wakingojea tu tangazo hilo kutoka kwa Wafula Chebukati.
And I think everyone will be keenly following Jeff, the announcement that Wafula Chebukati makes, whether it aligns with Article 138 of the Constitution. The requirement to avoid a runoff would be to have a candidate who receives 50% plus 1 votes across the country, and at least 25% of the votes cast in each of more than half of the counties. And there's been a lot of speculation that could this be the first runoff the country will see. Well, the man and the team that know could be stepping up onto the screen there.
Any moment from now.
Any moment from now, Jack.
Literally any moment. There's becoming a bevy of activity over there. Wahiga, you said you tried to get into that space a while ago.
We did. We used everything we could to try and
labda leo mngefaulu.
Our way there. The security team has been enhanced almost 3 times this week. There was a lean team on Tuesday into Wednesday. From Thursday, it was escalated. Even getting into the gate was a problem, even with the right documents. And yesterday, you had to fight to make your win, especially with the incidents. I know you guys saw, and we were in studio with some of you. Laptops, and all, commotion over different issues. And so the security team here has had to keep changing their protocols as they assess the situation on the ground.
No, absolutely. And of course, that amphitheater floor has been cleared of those tables that initially were set up to verify the Form 34B coming in from the returning officers, 290 of them, but now all collated into the Form 34C that will eventually become Form 34D. That is the certificate that will be handed over to the winner, announced by IEBC Chair Wafula Chebukati. That is the man, that's the face that we want to see come through that space right there and make that all-important announcement. Kenyans have been waiting patiently since last Tuesday when they went to the polls. But of course, with all this activity, familiar faces in the political scene making their way in and out of that amphitheater, and of course, raising a lot of questions as to what could they be discussing, what could be leading to this delay with very important individuals already in the room, having waited for hours before this point. So it doesn't help in terms of this vacuum of information. It can be filled with a lot of misinformation.
That's correct. It's been hard to really, trust what you see on social media this past week, Jeff.
And also the optics coming out of the screens. You can see the optics. What does this tell your average viewer? What's going on at Bomas, folks? I'm sure that's what they're asking. Around the country and around the world, what's going on at Bomas? You see that security at that place, it's being enhanced literally by the minute. And people are wondering, what's going on? When's Chebukati going to come out? What's he going to say? It's all a question of when, if.
The 7 most important people right now are the IEBC commissioners.
Yeah.
We haven't spotted either of them.
Any of them.
Up until now. And I'm wondering who that security team there is clearing that corridor for. We've only seen one presidential candidate make their way out from there after they'd left, after they'd all stepped out. We're waiting to see whether George Ojakoya will come back in. And of course, the Kenya Kwanza presidential candidate, William Ruto. But the commissioners are the men and women of the moment. And we are waiting for them to emerge and hopefully emerge before 6 p.m. as per the promise that they made. What a week, what an election. It's been Titus and Mkangu here, even as we've continued to follow what's happening.
Naam, Wahiga, na leo nadhani ni siku muhimu kwa sababu iwapo tangazo hili litafanyika leo, basi inawapa wale ambao hawajaridhishwa siku 7 za kwenda mahakamani kupinga matokeo. Kwa hivyo iwapo tangazo hili litafanyika leo, wale ambao wanapinga matokeo wana hadi Jumatatu ijayo kwenda kuwasilisha kesi mahakamani. Iwapo haitafanyika leo, itafanyika kesho, basi wana hadi Jumanne.
Okay, so this is now live from the Serena Hotel. Juliana Cherera, Justus Nyang'aya, these are IEBC commissioners, Francis Wanderi, Irene Masit, 4 of the 7 IEBC commissioners not at the Bomas of Kenya, but at the Serena Hotel, and they're about to issue a statement. We're not sure why they're not at Bomas. It was assumed they'd all be together, but let's listen in.
Ready? Is it morning? Well, good evening. As you can see, part of the commissioners are here because this is what we want to say. We have done the 2022 general election in the most effective and efficient manner. We have ensured that all the challenges have been contained, but Stop. Okay. As you can see, we are part of the commissioners in the IEBC. We have conducted the 2022 general election, and we have ensured that we have improved the standards, and we have ensured that we have consistently communicated what is happening. We have partnered with all stakeholders, and we'll say it for a fact that as the Commission, we have done a good job. But some things need to be put out there. As you can see, the four of us, we are here, not at Bomas of Kenya, where the results is going to be announced, because of the opaque nature of how this phase has been handled. We therefore cannot take ownership on the results that is going to be announced. However, we have an open door that people can go to court, and because of the same, we urge Kenyans to be peaceful, because the rule of the law is going to prevail. Thank you.
Why can't you take it? What's happening?
I said because of the opaque nature of this last phase of the general election, and we are not able to take ownership of the results that will be announced. We are going to give a comprehensive statement, but this is from us, the four of us, and again, we urge Kenyans to keep calm. There is an open door that people can go to court, and the rule of law is going to prevail. Thank you.
What do you mean by people can go to court?
Some of the forms 34A have not been verified by the Azunion.
What is not happening?
Can you clarify on that?
We have said. Have you just come?
Commissioner. Yes. Commissioner.
A recap, because we are not going to take questions. Agreed. We will give a comprehensive detail of today's. I have said.
When is that likely to be?
They want a recap. There are people who missed. Yes. We are saying we have upped the standards of election in this country. We have step by step faced the challenges that have been there. At the same time, we have ensured that things are running despite everything else. Now, we are not at Bomas of Kenya because we cannot take ownership of the results that is going to be announced because of the opaque nature which these results have been handled. We'll give details of this opaque nature very soon.
Why are you doing this now? Why are you doing this now?
Naam.
Those are live images from the Bomas of Kenya, the National Tallying Center. We've also brought you that short press briefing by 4 commissioners at the Serena Hotel. What is emerging is a split at the IEBC with Wafula Chebukati, the chair, and 2 commissioners who had earlier on made their way to the dais there at the Bomas of Kenya, possibly to release the results. But commotion ensued there at the dais, a security situation, and the security officers there are now trying to sort out the situation. But I know, Mashirima, you're also following what was happening at the Serena Hotel, where that press briefing just took place.
Naam, bila shaka na naibu mwenyekiti wa IEBC Juliana Cherera pamoja na makamishna wengine wa IEBC Julius Nyang'aya, Francis Wanderi na Irene Masit wakiwa wanatoa hotuba hapo kwa wanahabari wakisema kwamba wamejaribu zaidi kurekebisha yale ambayo yalikuwepo katika chaguzi za awali na kwamba uchaguzi huu wameufanya kwa njia nzuri kabisa na kwamba wameweza kushirikiana na washikadau wengine na kutoka kwao wanasema kwamba wamefanya kazi nzuri, lakini Julian hapo akisema kwamba kuna masuala ambayo wanahitaji kuyasema kwamba hawawezi kujumuika na wengine pale Bomas, lakini Faisal Abdulrahman ni Faisal Ahmed ambaye yuko Serena hivi sasa anaungana nasi kwa mengi zaidi. Faisal, kama unatusikia, hebu tueleze kwa nini makamishna hao hawaja kubali maswali na la msingi wamesema nini?
Na asante sana Mashirima, labda ungeweza kunikubalia niweze kuendelea kwa lugha ya Kiingereza. Now the 4 IEBC commissioners just a few minutes ago concluded a press briefing that was also very brief, less than 5 minutes, explaining that the whole process, the whole 2022 general elections were conducted in a way that they feel was actually very good and above board. However, they're saying that there was some issues with the last tallying, that is for the presidential candidates, and that they are not comfortable being part of it, and that there were some opaque things that were happening in which they do not want to be a part of. However, they've refused to take our questions, and they insist that they're going to give a more detailed press briefing after this. So we're just waiting to hear more from them, but all indications are showing that there is a dispute or discord between the IEBC commissioners, because a few moments ago 4 of them were here addressing the media on the irregularities or opaqueness or opaque nature in which the presidential tally was actually conducted with. Now, from here, we're just going to see if they're going to give us that detailed brief or if we are going to actually go somewhere else and see what's happening. But so far, that is what we have here from Serena Hotel, as keeping our eyes and ears open in case anything else pops up. Mashirima.
Ahmed hapo kutoka Serena akiwa anatueleza yale ambayo yamejiri katika mkahawa huo wa Serena, akisema kwamba makamishna hao 4 wamejitenga na matangazo ambayo tulikuwa tunatarajia kutoka kwa mwenyekiti wa IEBC Wafula Chebukati ambaye ni afisa mkuu wa uchaguzi wa urais. Makamishna hao wakiwa ni naibu wa IEBC Juliana Cherera, Julius Nyang'aya, Francis Wanderi na Irene Masit.
Now, Sam and Titus, you saw the pictures coming out of Bomas. Last 6 days, it's been pretty calm and tranquil. And Wahiga, you were there yourself. You saw that for yourself.
I mean, there were isolated incidents here and there, but
right.
nothing close to what was...
Nothing close to what we've just seen the last 30 minutes or so. And Chebukati had actually come down. He was on the dais, like you said, and then he disappeared back upstairs. 4 commissioners have taken off, saying they aren't going to go with the results of what they call the opaqueness of the election.
The last phase, specifically.
The last phase, correct.
She kept...
Jeff, to be honest, of course, without doubt, the situation has been complicated by the statement that has been read by the 4 commissioners from Serena. If they had not read the statement, probably one will say it would have been a bit easier to cascade along the legal provisions. But having come out very clearly, very unequivocally,
One.
One, two, check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. 1, 2. Microphone checking. Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Check. 1, 2. Singike kwa house, please. Sawa.
This is the moment Kenya has been waiting for. The nation has been anxious, but we want to urge all Kenyans, let us now put our anxiety aside. The Bible says the end of a matter is better than the beginning. We want to urge the country to remain united. We have families to look after, an economy to grow, children who will go back to school. We want our nation back. Let us all pray together. Heavenly Father, here we stand before you as the nation of Kenya. We have always seen your hand of mercy, looking after us, watching after us. Even when we push ourselves to the brink, you always know how to lift us up. Lord, we want to ask you that you'll guide the nation of Kenya today as we are going to hear the announcement of the process that has always been on. And Lord, when we hear the outcome, our prayer is that you'll keep this nation united. You'll make us find our being and love one another and care for each other, for we all belong together. None of us is going to go anywhere. We will remain to support each other and grow this country. We commit, oh God, all those who have been leading us to you in their various formation, that you will bless them. And as the election has come to a conclusion, we know there are those who have lost. Lord, we ask that you will help them as they come to terms. And even those who have won, Lord, help them to be magnanimous in their winning and embrace everybody. For they have been given an opportunity to lead those who voted for them and those who did not vote for them. So, Lord, bind us together with cords of love that cannot be broken. Enable us, oh God, to emerge out of this, shake off our dust, and march on and build this great nation. Lord, for the exercise ahead of us, we commit the chair and the commissioners before you, and all of us gathered in this room, that your will prevails, your presence overwhelms us, and this nation, oh God, will not go to the drain because you reign. This is our prayer in the name of God the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Good evening. We have walked the journey of ensuring that Kenyans get a free, fair, and credible election. It's not been an easy journey. Right now, 2 of my commissioners and the CEO are injured. And of course, they're being treated. We have staff who have been profiled. There's a staff returning officer in Bakassi West who disappeared while on duty. We have staff who have been arbitrarily arrested for no reasons. We don't know where they are. Some from this National Tallying Center. But we have a constitutional duty to perform. And that's why I stand before you today, despite intimidation, harassment, I took an oath of office to serve this country. And I've done my duty in accordance with the Constitution and the laws of the land. And I feel proud that I've been given this opportunity to serve Kenyans. This, of course, will be my last election to preside over. And for those who will come, we have prepared for you what the Constitution envisaged from us, an independent electoral commission. So I just want to thank the staff of IEBC, the soldiers who braved insults, harassment, and delivered right from the constituencies to the counties and up to the National Tallying Center. I want to thank stakeholders, state and non-state stakeholders who have worked with us on this journey, and more particularly the members of the diplomatic community and the religious leaders who have been keeping vigil at this center for the last 3 days. They have been here throughout, 24 hours a day. So Kenyans came out and voted on the 9th of August, and these are the results of what the will of the Kenyan people reflects. These results are in the public portal. The same results which I'm reading here are the ones in the public portal. So there were 4 presidential candidates. These are the aggregated results. Odinga Raila, total valid votes, 6,942,930. And this represents 48.85% of the votes garnered, and he achieved a number of counties the candidate attained with at least 25% of the total valid votes cast is 34 counties. Ruto William Samoei, number of valid votes, 7 million. Thank you. 7,176,141. This represents 50.49%. And he achieved the minimum number of 39 counties at 25%. Waihika David Maure, number of valid votes in figures 31,987. That represents 0.23%. Number of counties with a minimum of 25%, 0. Wachakoya George Luchiri, 61,969. Those are valid votes. Percentage of votes cast 0.44%. And number of counties with a minimum of 25% attained, 0. So, in accordance with the law, the Constitution and the law, I, Wafula Chebukati, Chairperson of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, hereby declares that Ruto William Samoei of ID number 6847208 has been duly elected as the President of the Republic of Kenya under the provisions of Article 138 of the Constitution in the presidential election held on 9th of day of August 2022. And I'll proceed to sign the certificate. I invite the President-elect to come forward and receive his certificate. And of course, the president-elect had a running mate. Rigathi Gachagua is the deputy president-elect. Thank you. I invite the president-elect to make his remarks. And thank you, Kenyans, for having a peaceful election. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Asanteni sana. Your Excellencies, Ambassadors, and High Commissioners present, Your Lordships, the Bishops, and members of the clergy in the Republic of Kenya, my good deputy, Rigathi Gachagua, distinguished members of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, led by Chairman Wafula Chebukati, fellow countrymen and women, good evening. It is a wonderful evening, and I want to thank God that we are here this evening to witness this momentous occasion as the people of Kenya restate what is in Article 1 of the Constitution of Kenya, that all sovereign power belong to the people of Kenya. I want to thank God for getting us to this point. I want to thank God that today we have concluded this election. I know that there were predictions that I won't get to the ballot. There were predictions that we won't get here. But because there is a God in heaven, we are here. And I want to, in a very special way, say and confess that without God, we wouldn't have been here. My gratitude also goes to the people of Kenya, the millions who listened to us, the millions who participated in our campaigns peacefully, the millions who turned up to vote for us on 9th of August, and the millions who have waited patiently until this announcement has been made. Specifically, I want to thank my fellow countrymen and women because we have raised the bar in this election. Jointly, we have raised the bar. This election was much about the issues than the ethnic configurations that have always informed our elections. Gratitude goes to the millions of Kenyans who refused to be boxed into tribal cocoons. I am a very proud Kenyan this evening that the people of Kenya have raised the bar on us who are seeking leadership in our country. Not to sell our ethnicities, but to sell our programs, our manifestos, our agenda, and our plan. Let me also say right at the start that in here and in this election, there are no losers. The people of Kenya have won because we have raised the political bar. I want to say that the people of Kenya, led by the 14 million who turned up to vote, are the biggest winners. The hero of this election is the IEBC, led by Wafula Chebukati. I say this with conviction that the IEBC amazed all of us. With the results in the public portal, all the servers were open. And everybody, all you needed is a simple calculator, and you would have the results. I want to congratulate the IEBC for raising the bar. And I want to say, without fear of any contradiction, that one Wafula Chebukati is our hero. Soft-spoken, but firm. And I want to tell you, Mr. Chairman, we are very proud that without informing any one of us, you put all the results from all the polling stations on a public portal where any Kenyan could access. That became the game changer in this election. Let me also, at this point in time, thank our partners, religious leaders, who were part of this process right from the beginning. For the first time, we saw religious leaders spend time at this Starling Center and prayed for this process. I am sure their prayers will not be in vain. I also want to thank our development partners, our diplomatic community, and all the observers who came in their thousands to be part and parcel of the process right from almost 2 weeks ago to its conclusion in this auditorium. To all of them, I tell them the people of Kenya are eternally grateful that you took your time, valuable time, to watch over this process so that the right thing can happen. I want to thank my worthy competitor, the Honorable Raila Odinga, for a campaign that we all dwelled on issues and we tried to sell an agenda to the people of Kenya. I want to promise that I will work with all elected leaders and all leaders in Kenya so that we can fashion a country that leaves nobody behind. What the people of Kenya have done, they have assigned us responsibilities. There will be those of us who will be in the executive, but there will be those of us who will oversee what we do in the executive. both responsibilities in government and in the opposition. I want to promise the people of Kenya that I will run a transparent, open, democratic government. And I will work with the opposition to the extent that they provide oversight over my administration. Let me also, at this point in time, acknowledge my boss, the President of the Republic of Kenya. His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, who has worked with me over the last 10 years in various forms. And I want to commit to the people of Kenya that I will build on the foundation that President Kenyatta and I put together and take this country to the next level. I want to promise all the people of Kenya, whichever way they voted, that this will be their government. I know many are wondering, especially those who have done many things against us. I want to tell them that they have nothing to fear. There is no room. There is nothing. There is no room for vengeance. There is no room for looking back. We are looking into the future. I am acutely aware that our country is at a stage where we need all hands on deck to move it forward. We do not have the luxury to look back. We do not have the luxury to point fingers. We do not have the luxury to apportion blame. We must close ranks and work together for a functioning, democratic, prosperous Kenya. I want to thank the members of my team, starting with my wife and family. And many other prayer warriors in Kenya. And I want to confess that I have been prayed into victory. It is not our effort. And my team knows. We were working against the odds, many odds at that. But I must confess that it is God who brought us this victory. I do not want to mention the many people, many friends who have been part and parcel of this journey. Many people have paid huge sacrifices for us to get here. I want to promise them that their sacrifice will not be in vain. I and my team and I will work very hard to make sure that we don't let the sacrifices made by many Kenyans, we don't let them down. I am very confident that this country will come together and we can move forward as one united, democratic, and prosperous country. I want to ask our religious leaders from across Kenya to pray for us and to pray for the unity and prosperity of our country. I will not want to say more than that because I will be making other statements in the course of time. But let me say to all of you, thank you very much for being here this evening to witness this very historic, democratic occasion that moves our country to the next level. And let me thank my very able deputy, Rigathi Gachagua, for the sacrifice and the commitment demonstrated and the hard work he has put in, together with all our teams, Musalia Mudavadi, Moses Otangula, J.B. Muturi, Mr. Mutua, Amazon Kingi, and all. Let me not go down that route because I will disappoint some people, because that list is very long, especially the men and women, members of parliament who were elected with us in Jubilee. And they have paid a heavy price for us to get here. Ladies and gentlemen, waheshimiwa, let me say, I owe you. You are great people. The sacrifices you made, withstanding the many incidences of blackmail and threats, I want to tell you, you have earned your place in the history of Kenya, because today we're going to form a government together to serve the people of Kenya. So with those many remarks, let me say to all the people of Kenya, I give you my word that I will work hard to make sure that this nation moves to the next level, is united and is prosperous. Asanteni sana.
Tuishangilie Kenya, taifa letu tukufu, Kenya tunayoipenda, Kenya nchi tunayoipenda, Kenya nchi tunayoipenda. Na ukipenda Kenya, ujitengane na mambo yenye kuvunja amani. Hatutaki matata Kenya, hatutaki matata Kenya. Anayependa Kenya ni yule mwenye kutenda haki kwa watu wote. Mtu mwenye kutenda haki, mtu mwenye kutenda haki. Kenya makao yetu ni